The following is rated not safe for work. It contains strong language, adult situations, and lots of spoilers. Discretion is advised.
In the criminal justice system, cinematic-based offenses are considered especially heinous. The dedicated attorneys who investigate these villainous films are members of an elite squad known as the Reels of Justice. These are their stories.
Order, please, order. The Reels of Justice is now in session. Judge Ryan, the extreme Luis Rodriguez presiding. We all rise for the Honorable Extreme.
All right. Be seated. Welcome to the Reels of Justice.
The Extreme!
Yeah. Today we are hearing the case of The People vs. Twister, a 1996 disaster movie about a team of intrepid storm chasers led by a pair of estranged spouses who must brave hazardous tornadoes in order to implement an advanced weather gauging device. For those of you unfamiliar with our court proceedings, we are here to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. As always, in this courtroom, films are to be considered excellent until proven awful, and the burden of proof lies upon the prosecution to prove beyond a shadow of a reasonable doubt that this film is guilty. Mr. Maynard Bangs, you're appearing on behalf of the prosecution. You may present your opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, Your Honor, 1996's Twister was doomed to fail from the moment its no-talent hack of a screenwriter, one Michael Crichton, made the disastrous decision to stray so terribly far from its original sacrosanct source material. At no point in this film are we ever shown a large plastic mat adorned with colorful circles being placed on a floor, nor do we ever see a single spinner spun. And perhaps worst of all is the complete lack of any playful flirtations while its cast of characters contort themselves to put specified body parts on corresponding dots. In lieu of all the traditional hallmarks we would expect, we are instead treated to a near 2-hour paint-by-numbers action flick about tornadoes and the one-dimensional people who pursue them, with special effects that were likely stunning at the time, but are stunningly cringy today. In short, ladies and gentlemen, Twister has to be the worst film based on a board game that I've ever seen in my entire life. I thank you.
That includes Battleship, right?
It does.
Thank you, Mr. Bangs. That sounds quite disingenuous. Appearing on behalf of the defense is Mr. Chris Revill. Please present your opening statement.
Your Honor, show me a movie that shows you humor with heart while chasing storms. I bet you will never find anything quite like Twister. Twister is somehow a fantastic action movie about a subject that nobody cares about, but somehow it wheels you in and somehow has heart through the whole thing, and it weaves together a wonderful love story. And I do have to disagree with you. I thought the CGI held up pretty well for 1996. I thought that cow was real that was flying in the air.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you, Mr. Revill. Mr. Bangs, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
My first exhibit is a little thing I'd like to call science. Now, I concede that films are not required to be scientifically accurate, but let me point out that the filmmakers of Twister had actual consultants from both the NOAA as well as the NSSL to ensure that the script was as realistic as possible. In fact, several members of the cast were taken out on a real tornado chase by real tornado chasers to prepare for the film. So this means one of two things. Either these were the worst possible weather experts available at the time, or the filmmakers threw out all their input to just do whatever Hollywood bullshit they wanted anyway. Considering I find the second option more likely, that means that this film is not only scientifically inaccurate, but the filmmakers actually wasted the time of several real scientists in the process of making it. That's a double whammy. Do you know how many violent storms tore through the heartland while these experts were busy helping these ungrateful Hollywood douchebags? Do you? Me either, because the experts whose job it was to assess these storms were too busy assisting these entitled Hollywood jerk-offs with a bunch of information they were never going to use anyway.
Defense, would you care to defend this scientific accuracy?
Well, I guess we could all go into a movie expecting to see reality, but what would be the point of that? There was no reason for this in Twister. This movie sets it up where you are allowed to suspend your belief that a human being can survive a T5 by putting a belt around a pipe. And that's okay, because what the real movie this showed was heart and human connection and how trauma affects us all, and those corporate scumbags taking the corporate money who don't believe in science.
But
So
this film was aiming for scientific accuracy. That's why it brought in so many scientific consultants. It wasn't aiming to be fantasy. It's not supposed to be Wizard of Oz.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the verdict's still out on science, if we're being honest.
Oh, well, I'm not going to touch that one. But very little of the science we see in this film is correct, even the easy stuff, except for the fact that a tornado can throw really heavy shit really
Like
fucking
cows.
far. That much is truth. Yes, it can throw cows and does throw wildlife and kills animals a lot. But they get almost everything else wrong. From what a downdraft is to horizontal rain, microburst, back building, you name it, and they get it wrong. I mean, they even get the Fujita scale wrong, right? Where they constantly talk about, this tornado is going to be an F3. This one's going to be an F5. You cannot determine the scale or intensity of a storm just by looking at it. A tornado can only be designated 1 through 5 after the fact, when a damage survey is taken. So the size of the tornado is not an indicator of its strength. There's F4s and F5s that have thin, stovepipe structures to them.
Defense?
Yeah, well, I guess that's a good point. We could point out some of the flaws within the movie, and of course, no movie is.
That's my job. That's my whole job.
Yeah, of course. But unlike some of you weather nerds out there, the rest of us didn't go to this movie expecting to get scientifically accurate things on tornadoes. I came for love and I came from action, and it goddamn delivered.
Well, before I leave the scientific accuracy topic, I just want to mention all the dangerous misinformation this film actually helped propagate to the public. Number one, if there's a tornado in your vicinity, a car is one of the worst places you can be, because the tornado is going to hurl that thing in the air with you inside it like a bad CGI cow. And yet, multiple times in this film, these so-called scientists hide inside of cars, trucks, ramshackle tin roof structures, underneath bridges, which is also a terrible idea. Basically, name a death trap, and this movie had their protagonist hide in it. And this is terribly bad advice being doled out by a popular film, and we can only guess at the death toll that should be safely laid at the feet of all involved.
Where do I hide?
I mean, a storm shelter or a basement is one of the better places to hide. But a storm
what if the door blows off?
Don't stand near the
Whip
fucking
it.
door. That's number one. Do not stand near the door. Certainly don't try to hold it.
Okay, so beyond the scientific accuracy, why don't you proceed with your next exhibit, prosecution?
Oh, okay. Well, this is kind of scientific adjacent, Your Honor. But
That's fine.
let's
That works.
talk about a little thing called physics. An F5 tornado, if this is in fact an F5 tornado, which the jury is out on, can have winds of up to 300 miles per hour. If one blows over you and you have no shelter, like Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt have no shelter at the end of this movie, you're going to die. If the winds don't kill you, the flying debris will. We saw this tornado hurl a tractor trailer truck, but we're supposed to expect that a couple of leather straps from Kmart are going to hold them to these pipes, or that their arms aren't going to rip out of socket. Sorry, but at the end of this movie, these people are dead.
Now, I must know how much time you spent on Wikipedia looking all this stuff up.
It was several articles across the internet, Your Honor. Weather Channel, a lot of stuff.
So, defense, would you care to speak to the physics accuracy, which is, I guess, as the prosecution said, scientific adjacent?
Scientific adjacent. Well, Your Honor, first off, I would like to see the data that has been brought forth of how many people use this, how much of this so-called misinformation led to anyone losing their life because
We
of
can
the movie
only
Twister.
guess.
Well, he's got you there.
I'm willing to assume high.
That doesn't sound very scientific.
That's true.
Prosecution may proceed.
Okay, I will proceed. I'll leave science behind for now. Next,
Thank
I
you.
want to talk about the antagonists of this film, as if Mother Nature wasn't enough. And that's the bad guy team of storm chasers, led by the ever dastardly Cary Elwes. How can you tell whether a team of weather researchers is evil? Well, it's simple. Just look at their convoy of vehicles. If it's made up of mostly all black Dodge Grand Caravan SEs, you've got some evil bastards on your hands. But if it looks like their vehicles were hodgepodge together from the character select screen of Nintendo 64's Vigilante 8, those are the good guys. Now, what makes these guys so evil? Bill Paxton says it's because Cary Elwes got himself some corporate sponsors. He's in it for the money, not the science. He also says he has no instincts and doesn't have Dorothy. Dorothy, by the way, is the weather instrument that releases sensors into a tornado. And it helps them, I don't know, learn sciencey shit. They don't really go into it. So it turns out Elwes has his own version of this, which shouldn't be shocking because it's actually based on a real device that was tested and found to be unsuccessful in the 1980s. But anyway, when Bill Paxton discovers this, he's irate. To him, Elwes has stolen his baby. He literally screams, "You stole my design, you bastard." But if Paxton is really sincere about being in it for the science rather than the money, why does he keep such valuable technology proprietary? Why not share it widely with as many storm chasers as possible to increase its likelihood of success? I mean, what's important is increasing the ability to predict tornadoes and save lives, right?
Defense, would you care to stick up for the antagonist?
Well, absolutely. This movie is really showing us exactly. It shows us. Excuse me. It is showing us the clear lines of classism. We have our young Bill Paxton, Helen Hunt, punk rock storm chasers being taken over by the greedy corporate people. And, I think that's one of the things that the movie can do very well is it helps you connect because, fuck those guys who are in it for the money and not the science. And to your point of why doesn't he make it proprietary, this movie does delve in lots of undealt trauma that both Helen Hunt's character, and clearly that is one of the things that must have destroyed their marriage. Clearly, he is only holding on to that because all of this is his connection back to Helen Hunt, his wife, that he's so in love with, but he's just so blind to himself. And this is the way to pull them all back together. And how do you not like a character who sees that they're being wronged by some rich motherfucker and walks over to them and hits them and knocks their hat off and starts a fight on local television?
Local television.
National local television. I don't know that I completely buy all of that as an explanation, but I still think that Paxton should be more willing to share his scientific advances if, as they say, it's really all about the science and helping to create tornado alerts earlier. Basically, you're saying he's full of shit about that, and this is all about personal gain for him and keeping his wife close to him. Just doesn't seem like the protagonist good guy sort of thing to do. But I'm glad that you brought up their relationship because honestly, back to the topic of realism for a moment, Your Honor, you can't expect me to believe that one beautiful woman fell in love and married Bill Paxton, let alone two. That's a bridge too far.
Shots fired.
But apart from that, we never really get to know. I know that the defense made a lot of suppositions, but we never really get to know what strained the relationship between Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton. It's never spelled out. They are estranged. They seem to argue sometimes when we see them, but mostly all their arguments are about having broken up. And Bill Paxton, comes to get the divorce papers signed at the beginning, and he brings his new, far, far too attractive fiancée, Jamie Gertz, with him. He endangers her life several times for the next 45 minutes before she finally takes the hint that she can't compete with Helen Hunt or storm chasing, and she goes home. And then Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton reunite, but we never see what problems they had that led to their initial breakup become overcome. So what makes us think that they're going to stay together this time when their relationship seems to be based on nothing but intense experiences like surviving an impossible F5 tornado, if it was an F5?
Any rebuttals, defense?
Well, first, I would like to point out to your point of reality with Bill Paxton having way too hot of a life. May I present to you Judd Apatow? Very known, not attractive man married to a very gorgeous woman.
But he's
Hollywood
rich.
and real life sees many of these scenarios where the woman is almost always more attractive than their partner. I, for one, my wife is way hotter than I am.
Objection, Your Honor. Judd Apatow is rich, and Bill Paxton's character in this movie is not.
Yes, but Judd Apatow is not rich when he met Leslie Mann.
Okay, I'll have to take your word
He
on
kind of
that.
was, but
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. I object again, then.
Richer than I'll ever be.
Sustained. Prosecution.
I love
do
that
you
you
have
know
any
the
further
relationship
exhibits?
of when
I
they
do.
met.
I've got a million of them, Your Honor. My next point is the Wizard of Oz references. There's too many. Besides naming the in situ device Dorothy, which I can understand because the device it's based on is called Toto, the rest are all very eye-roll inducing and cringy. When Dorothy's house gets picked up by the Twister in Wizard of Oz, one of the things she sees flying out of her window is a cow. Young Helen Hunt in 1969 has a Cairn Terrier, the same breed as Toto, named Toby. Later in the film, Helen Hunt's Aunt Meg is watching A Star is Born on TV, which starred Judy Garland. And of course, we can't overlook Aunt Meg herself, or should I say, Auntie M. I understand making an illusion for funsies, but there comes a point where you're just beating a dead horse, or cow in this case.
Defense. Would you care to defend the use of Wizard of Oz Easter eggs?
I mean, how are you arguing about there's too many Easter eggs to one of the most classic movies of film history? That is such a preposterous argument. That's the best part of movies is the Easter eggs. It's one of the many reasons people like me love like Marvel movies and Simpsons. In fact, I thought there weren't enough Wizard of Oz references, and I actually wish they would have gone a step farther.
If I
gave us
went
some references to the Land of Oz.
I mean, part of the fun of the Easter egg hunt
movie.
is part of the fun of an Easter egg hunt is hiding the egg, so it's a little challenging to find them. If I just walk and your whole lawn is covered in painted eggs, I'm not going to have any fun hunting them. So my final point, Your Honor, since the defense earlier would not acknowledge how many people this film potentially hurt with misinformation, let's talk about the people it definitively hurt while it was being created. Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt both had their retinas burned by some bright electronic lamps that were used to make the sky look dark and stormy, and both actors were temporarily blinded and had to use eye drops and special glasses to recuperate. Helen Hunt received several head injuries while on set, hitting her head on the low bridge during shooting, having a car door strike her head while she was speeding through a cornfield. She may have even suffered a concussion. And then the director, DeBont, had the audacity to say she was clumsy. DeBont also knocked over a camera assistant in a fit of rage after a missed cue, which caused the whole camera crew to walk off the set and leave the project right in the middle of shooting. And then they brought on a replacement crew. And when they brought on the replacement crew, the director of photography was hospitalized when the hydraulic house set was mistakenly collapsed with him inside, injuring his back. So there is an actual list of injuries and pain that this film has caused, more than just its viewers, but those who were responsible in creating it. And with that, Your Honor, the prosecution rests.
Well, we don't necessarily need to factor in how a production of a film goes, but defense, would you care to defend this irresponsible production?
Well, absolutely. I think everything you just stated were just what we would call occupational hazards.
Pushing over? You're not supposed to push your camera assistant. I don't go around slapping Ben when a take goes bad because I'm a professional.
It feels great.
I'm a professional.
Plus, you're in other cities, so it would be very hard to do that.
I personally have worked several jobs where I've had to put my own body on the line and pull restraints, and so I think those are all just hazards that that Helen Hunt signed up for, and you know, I wish they didn't get hurt, and that is unfortunate, but that's all part of the job, and they make a lot more than me.
Helen Hunt is a trooper. I will give her that.
She really is.
DeBont, the director, is a cunt.
Wow, jeez.
I said it.
Gonna have to.
You mean a cunt?
Yeah, de cunt. Thank you, Your Honor.
I love that.
Anyway,
prosecution has
still
rested. Mr. Revill, you may proceed with your first exhibit.
Yes. So one of the things I would have to point to in this movie is the fantastic cast of actors beyond the Bill Paxton and Helen Hunts, there's character actor Sean Whalen, just thrown out there, a great TikTok and social media follow. There was the gentleman from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, who was Cameron, whose name escapes me.
Alan Ruck.
Yes, and then I don't know if anyone ever, and also I saw character actors from the old Ellen TV show, the first round. So that enough. And dare do I say, Philip Seymour Hoffman bringing way too much to his role to make every second on screen where he is just stealing it from you. This movie is essentially an 80s ski movie, but take out ski movies and replace it with Storm Chasers. I don't know if Storm Chasers were popular in the 90s, but if they were, God, I wish I was one. This movie makes you want to go chase a twister, and I promise you, I did not go to a drive-in theater for several years because of this movie, the same way people don't go into the water because of Jaws. This movie
they all closed, Your Honor. Objection.
There's one up the street from me.
Sustained.
Yeah, I live 20
There's
minutes
one
from
up the road for me, too.
Yeah, there's a few left.
I'd like those stricken from the record, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Overruled.
Yes. I know this. I think this movie has a great pacing where it just kind of starts. They know what they're doing.
Actually, if I may quickly respond to the actors list,
You may.
they are some great performers, but I can't say that they're great characters. Besides Dusty, who is Philip Seymour Hoffman, can you tell me any of the characters' names that you mentioned? Otherwise, can you tell me anything about their personality besides that they chase storms?
Oh yeah, Sean had a backwards hat. The other girl was pretty punk. The other dude had red hair. I'm not.
These are not character traits. These are physical
One of them
attributes.
was named Rabbit, right?
Alan Ruck's character was named Rabbit, which is stupid because it should have been Sean Whalen's name. He looks way more like a rabbit.
They were all little creepy, dirty, grungy punk rock kids that I probably didn't want to talk to.
There's too many, and they're not well defined. That's my point. They're very much a sort of bland ensemble, apart from Dusty.
Dusty. I think Dusty's the best part. I think I found this movie had great pacing where it just starts and just action scene, action scene, action scene, action scene, and then it was over, and I can continue on with my day. I'm a big believer of you need to judge a movie for what it is, not what it should be. At no point did when you go on to turn Twister, do you think you're going to be watching Citizens Kane? It is exactly what you want it to be. Just a good action movies disguised with nature.
Prosecution, should this be compared to Citizen Kane?
No, I don't think it should be. I agree that there is some pretty good pacing, especially in the beginning. It jumps right into it. It doesn't make you wait really to go chase storms, but there is a lot of second act drag when they finally get to Aunt Meg's house, and you think maybe you'll get to learn something about some of these characters, and they don't. They just do kind of an exposition dump about the Fujita scale, which they largely get wrong. And then maybe there's the other action sequence, but then they stop it again after when Aunt Meg's house is kind of destroyed. So I think it drags a little in the middle, more so than anything.
Defense,
Yes,
do you have
the
any
rule
further
of movies is they could do anything they want as long as the ending is good. Point in case the most recent Ghostbusters movie.
That's true.
As long as you got a good last 30 minutes, we can forgive everything else.
I don't know
if you want to bring up Ghostbusters Afterlife in this case, but okay.
Hey, there's been no rulings yet in this courtroom.
Okay.
I hope we can talk about that afterwards. I very much liked it.
No, we cannot. You'll have to sign up for another
Yeah.
court date, sir.
Bringing it.
Defense, do you have any further exhibits?
Oh, no, I do not.
Okay. Both sides have rested their cases. The attorneys will now present their closing arguments. Mr. Bangs, you may begin.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen, 1996's Twister is a terribly formulaic disaster movie featuring a couple that doesn't even know why they broke up, a slew of convoluted and at times dangerously inaccurate science, complete disregard for the safety of its cast and crew, and more references to The Wizard of Oz than a Pink Floyd concert. It brought all new meaning to the term the suck zone. But on a positive note, following the release of Twister, sales of the 1995 Dodge Ram pickup truck doubled for the next several years. So I guess it wasn't all bad, right? Because, after all, in the end, Twister was only ever in it for the money, not the science. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Revill, you may present your closing argument.
Your Honor, the jury, this movie Twister shows the story of a young Helen Hunt who loses her father and never is able to deal with her own trauma, who then finds a way to try to save everyone else, even if it means pushing away her own soon-to-be ex-husband, and brings us on an adventure ride unlike no other. This movie is just a great hour and a half of just action, heart, and great characters. Unfortunately, I did not know that thing about the Dodge Ram, but I think I'm going to go buy one now, and I rest my case.
Thank you both. Members of the jury, Mr. Dylan J. Schlender, Mr. Big Ben Haslar, Mr. The Finger of God, Ryan Luis Rodriguez. Fuck you, Rob.
You could have been the
heard
suck
facts
zone. You
concerning
could
this
have been
case?
the suck zone.
Oh, wow. What a relief.
Exactly.
It is now up to you to determine if this film is guilty of being a bad movie. The bailiff will escort you to the deliberation room to render your verdict.
When y'all said you were going to talk about Twister, deep down I thought it was a metaphor.
I don't know what that means.
What?
That's a
from the
reference to
movie.
the dialogue in the film.
Oh.
The bailiff watches the movie too?
Yes,
Of
we've
course.
been over that. We've been over that.
All right, everyone. So Twister, interesting movie. Boy, I gotta say, I really liked Rob's case because, like, the evil scientists. I mean, like with the black sunglasses and the fleet of vehicles. It's like, oh, they're in it for the money, not the science. It's just like
It's a lot more of a cutthroat
yeah, right.
field
It's
than
like,
I realized,
like,
right?
this is really contrived. I mean, can't we just focus on the tornadoes and everything? You know, it's so. It was a good point. Chris clearly has a lot of affection for the movie and was really driving home the point, like we're just supposed to be watching it for the fun action set pieces and enjoying it really on that superficial level. So, Ben, what are you thinking after you listen to this case?
Well, when they're not actually in the tornado, like when the tornadoes aren't like actually on the screen, I kind of liked it. Like when they're, like revving up and they're, although I wonder what farmers are thinking when these guys just like charge through their fields, just tearing the whole thing up like, oh, it's storm chasers. Yeah, we got to forgive them. They're going to give us that valuable data that'll let us know when to hide. But beyond that, like when they were actually like, gearing up and trying to find where the tornadoes are, it was pretty good, I guess. But when the tornadoes are on the screen and you see the cows and Helen Hunt's dad getting sucked up in the door, and yeah, the aforementioned belt being tied to the pipes, I'm sorry, it's stupid.
I have to say, I just don't think that stuff has aged well. I mean, especially when you can go back and watch like the original Jurassic Park, and that still looks really good. Like a lot of this stuff just looked pretty like, boy.
And it's
Ryan,
a shame because at the
jump
time
in
it became notable because of the special effects, which is a shame that
Yes.
that's the part of it that may have
Yeah.
aged the poorest.
Yes,
I remember people nonstop in school talking about that cow. Just that's like the whole thing they took from the film. Like, hey,
My
there's a
dad
cow.
took me out of school to go see it because he had seen it before, and he's like, "You're never going to believe this. You're not going to believe how big these tornadoes are on the big screen." And I remember even then watching it, going like, "Yeah, all right, okay. What else we got?"
I actually saw it at the drive-in, so that was really cool. I mean, it is pretty immense when you get to see it on the humongous screen like that. And then, of course, is the whole drive-in scene in there while you're at the drive-in, which is pretty cool.
I will say it led to one of the best Universal Studios Florida attractions ever. You actually get to experience the drive-in scene as if a tornado is enveloping you inside this small little theater, and it was amazing.
That
Much
sounds
more
pretty cool.
impressive than the film itself, which is hot trash. Let's all just be general about it. Hot trash, but 90s hot trash, which puts it in my wheelhouse. So I gotta kind of forgive it because it very much hits kind of like a sweet spot of nostalgia for me, even if I acknowledge that the movie itself is not good. Like on a structural level, it's not good.
Like, I feel like that's happening with a lot of these 90s movies that we're revisiting. I mean, we're all around the same age, Wild Wild West, Congo, like we're going back and looking at these and going like, ooh, not so much. Like if we were doing Reels of Justice when we were like teenagers, 10, 11 years old, we'd be like, not guilty, hell yeah! Now
Yeah,
we're a little
11-year-old
little
Ben thought
older.
Battlefield Earth wasn't all that bad.
Yeah, right. A little older, a little wiser now, maybe. So
And now it opens up and it's like, ooh, that's a very poor looking CGI satellite orbiting Earth.
yeah,
That's the problem with early CGI effects, is that you're running before you can walk. And that
Yeah.
stuff really ages the poorest out of everything. It makes you appreciate the practical effects spectacles even more, because the fact that they don't age nearly as poorly.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very, very good point. And then just, getting back towards Twister, and I thought Rob brought up a good point. It's like you kind of have like character pastiches. Like they're not actually characters. It is just kind of like this weird ragtag band of guys and gals, and they all have they just all seem quirky. Yeah, archetypes. I mean, but even then, like barely. It's like Philip Seymour Hoffman brings a little more to his character.
I disagree with you
that's
guys.
because
Everyone loves this guy. He's just out there.
But I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman brings it to movies like Along Came Polly. Like this isn't
He
necessarily.
does, yeah.
It's not like a huge breakthrough that he makes his scenes in Twister watchable, because he makes any scene that he's in watchable.
Yeah, no, and that's fair, But like, what was Alan Ruck's thing? Like he don't fold the maps.
He's Rabbit. He's the guy.
That was about it. Yeah, And then there was like the other guy.
His name is Rabbit. That's his
and then
he's the guy on the computer, right? Like he's like, oh, speed up, go.
Well, that's the other thing too. It's like it seems like they did a very good job of tracking tornadoes before Dorothy ever got into one. It's like.
That's true.
When the sensors get inside the tornado, wouldn't that only work for that tornado? Like, are all tornadoes connected? I never understood that part.
Well, I mean, I could see, but that was another thing. You would another reason to Rob's point, where you would want as many people doing as many Dorothys as possible, because you would need a bunch of tornadoes for relevant sample sizes. Doing that method of putting Dorothys into each individual tornado. I mean, maybe there's something you could glean from only doing one tornado, but you'd want to be able to replicate those results, I imagine. I mean, that's what science is about, is replicating results. So.
They're just looking at that computer screen like so happy, like, oh, data, valuable data, we won.
Yeah, the tornado that just ended. The one we don't need to look out for because it's over.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if these weather conditions ever exist in this part of the country again, we'll be ready. Yeah, God, I gotta say, so let me just kind of tell you where I'm at then, is because this is a movie I always remembered very fondly. I remember loving seeing the drive-in, but like it's kind of like the Congo and Wild Wild West effect here. It's just going back and rewatching. It's just like, and the worst, like the kiss of death for a movie is like I have no desire to watch this movie again. Not even as a curio. Not even as just like, oh, I like to show my kids and be like, oh, this was huge when I was a kid. I would rather show them something like Jurassic Park to get that same effect, because it would hold up better. So
yeah. What was with the prosecution like going against Michael Crichton, like Jurassic Park, man?
No.
Everybody has one good one. Everybody has one good movie. That's
the joke the joke was that Michael Crichton was too stupid to adapt the board game. Yes, that's the gag. Michael Crichton's fine. He did Westworld too. He has two good movies. Don't forget that.
Oh,
right?
We got two. Sorry.
Yeah.
Never mind.
There you go. I'm just saying.
It makes up for Congo.
Yeah. Something has to. All right, so I'm the foreman, so I can't lock in my guilty vote just yet. So, Ryan, what are you voting?
Guilty.
Big Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I feel for the defense. I do think it's a movie that you can enjoy. I actually wouldn't mind seeing it again, but I would go in with the mind that it's a movie that I'm kind of going to mock a little bit. It does have good moments in it, but the bad moments where they're actually in the tornadoes is enough to sink it to guilty for me.
I would watch this again with riff tracks.
Absolutely.
100%.
Oh, you could riff this movie quite easily. As a matter of fact, Maynard and I had a hilarious riff that I'll share afterwards.
If they can Face Off, they can make this funny.
All right. I mean, Face Off is really good, though. Face Off would be not guilty.
Face Off is a great movie.
I love Face Off. But enough of better movies. Let's go out there and tell that very handsome judge.
Mr. Foreman, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. In the case of the People versus Twister, we find the defendant guilty of being a bad movie. The extreme!
The verdict is so rendered. Twister is hereby sentenced to 20 years hard time to be served in a movie theater without THX certification. Court is adjourned.
Oh, God.
Side note, DeBon actually told theaters to turn the volume up louder for this
I
movie.
remember there was a sign in the lobby that said that the sound will be turned up even louder than usual, and that should be a sign that your movie's maybe not working.
The tornado sound's not even accurate. They kind of make the tornadoes roar.
You already won. Let it go.
I'm just saying, it turns
already
out it's
won,
a really
man.
bad movie.
Just
All
stop
right. Well, I'm
beating
waiting
on
for
it.
Ben
It's dead.
to
It's
waiting
dead
for Ben
already.
to pull out his really creative character.
Newspaper budgets are not what they used to be. He's still in his Uber.
This is the extremely disappointingly named Oliver Twister coming to you outside live from the Wheels of Justice courthouse. Rob Maynard, you won this case. Want to throw caution to the wind and give us your thoughts on the verdict?
How old are you?
Doesn't matter.
I just worry about child protective laws, whether you should be working like that. Well, Oliver, this brought me no pleasure. I'll tell you that much, because Twister is a movie that I do like. But unfortunately, watching it this time, I really had to admit there's a lot of implausible stuff in it, which, you know, like, again, science doesn't always matter in a movie, but this was a movie that aimed for some scientific accuracy and missed entirely. I do think it's a movie I'd watch again. It might have been a movie that might have gotten off if I was in the jury, but no, it is what it is.
Thank you very much, sir. And here comes the defense. Was this movie an utter disaster?
Oh.
I say moo.
No.
Want to go for a spin, sir, and give us your thoughts?
Well, first I'd have to say, game recognized game, first off. It's hard to argue. That was a great argument laid in front of all of us. Obviously, I disagree. I still find much value in this movie, and it is tons of fun, and it's something I will go back and rewatch.
Thank you, sir. And I have just ran out of wind, so let's go back to the studio for a post-trial analysis.
Out of breath.
I think Oliver just hit puberty at the end of that interview.
It's
He's
a
a
day.
character.
You're a
Really
man,
bad.
Oliver.
So
Should have ended with
bizarre.
Post-trial
this-
analysis.
But thanks, Chris. You put up a very good case there.
I'm glad we didn't kill your spirit.
You know, I pitched it to you because, you know, we saw Twister actually had, it was like a 60 on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's kind of like right in that sweet kind of tipping point where, like, you know, you can't really decide which way it went. And I thought before we watched it, I was like, there's no way I can get this film guilty, because the image that was built up in my head from nostalgia was this really, really great action movie, which I do think the action sequences are generally still pretty decent. But yeah, once you get past any of the tornadoes, there's not a lot there.
Once you think about it for 3 seconds.
Yes, I think Ebert's review said exactly that.
Yeah.
At the time it was released, it was like, don't think about this movie for anything longer than like 2 seconds, because none of it makes any sense.
I think we're all at the similar age. I also think this movie might have suffered for me from we owned it on VHS-itis.
Mhm.
So like it wasn't that it was a good movie,
Yeah.
but it was one of like
You
5
had it.
that
It
we
was
owned.
the only one we had.
Yeah, it was like this
Yeah.
and The Rock and maybe like 2 other
And
movies.
Titanic on the
The
two.
Oh,
Rock,
dude,
The Rock's
the Rock.
great.
I'd rather watch The Rock.
Dude,
Okay,
Yeah,
that-
watch
now we're
The Rock
talking.
anytime.
That was my house. It was The Rock and Con Air, like just looped
Yeah,
back.
it's
and
Oh,
forth.
Con Air. Oh, so good.
So I had
Yeah.
every Godzilla on VHS, so I mean, I didn't really need anything else. I had
Yeah, big
Jurassic
Con Air
Park too.
fan.
Yeah. Oh man, I love Con Air.
So no, but great case, fun case to do, and I hope people will revisit this movie, especially if you disagree with us, and think about some of the stuff we said while you watch it. And yeah, I once I started to research all the scientific inaccuracy, it's like even the little stuff they say was so wrong. But that's enough about Twister. I've had enough. Chris, what has been keeping you busy? What have you been up to lately?
Well, besides like, boring work and life stuff, I host Let's
Be-
Chat with Chris Revill. So that's usually the thing that kind of keeps me going the most is hosting the podcast. And then within that, we have the Let's Chat Club where we have Let's Chat Club. So, been trying to build out the Patreon. I've been doing actually some consultant work for like companies in podcast. I have a full-time job currently like in healthcare, and I'm working part-time into the podcast industry. So I'm slowly getting 2 feet over that way. So that's been taking up the majority of my time on a personal level. And then outside of that, I've been enjoying rewatching all of my favorite Christmas movies and Christmas TV show episodes.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, so you've been watching a lot of Christmas movies lately. That makes sense with the season behind us. So what was one of your favorites or one that really sticks out?
You know what's so funny? I'm such a TV guy. I like all your classics like Elf and all that stuff, but it's been Bob's Burgers Christmas episodes and Community Christmas episodes on repeat.
Community's so good.
Yeah, I even watched those non-holidays. They're so good. I watched Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas last night, and after a few edibles,
Great
and
episode.
just
Oh,
sobbed
so
my eyes out like a monster.
I don't know the show that I go for the Christmas specials. I know Bob's Burgers does a lot of good Thanksgiving ones that we watch.
Yeah, I would
Simpsons
argue
has
the
some really good
Bleakening
Christmas
is
episodes.
They do. They've got the one where Bart shoplifts, and then of course the
Marge
first
Be Not
pilot.
Proud.
Yeah, but
the very
besides
first
that-
episode was a Christmas episode.
The episode where Bart burns down the Christmas tree and they say that
That's
they
a
got
good one
robbed.
too.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. So there are a few. I can't really think of any others, but for me, Simpsons is Halloween. You know,
The best
absolutely.
standalone Christmas episode was Justice League. It's usually 2-part episodes, but they did a 1-part Christmas.
Yeah, in season
episode.
2. So good.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
It's so great.
I got it.
do you
Rugrats. When
Well, they do
Santa-
Hanukkah episodes.
They
Their
do a
Hanukkah
Hanukkah, but they also do a
episode's
Santa. They do, I think it's called like the Santa Experience or something.
Yeah.
And they try to go find Santa at the North Pole or whatever. And
Is that the one they end up at the South Pole though?
it might be. Rugrats was too smart for its own good.
Well, they just got to keep going. They'll circle back and it'll be north again.
It would have been fine. But yeah, I think Rugrats does a good one. I know Rocco does a good one too.
Also, West Wing, surprisingly, season 2.
Yeah,
West Wing.
Three very similar shows.
Yeah,
Mm.
but yeah, their Christmas episode is one of my favorites of season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Now, tell us more about Let's Chat. What do you Let's Chat about?
I saw you had the Vern on recently.
The
as we were
Vern?
recording.
You know the Vern?
The Vern.
We love the Vern.
Yes, actually, can I tell a quick fun story?
Please do.
I've known
100%.
Vern. Vern and I have been like podcast Twitter friends for maybe 5 or 6 years. I would say we've done each other's various podcasts, and you know how it is nowadays, right? You just have your internet friends are more your friends than your actual friends in real life. So Vern's like a good friend. He actually is actually part of our Let's Chat team now. He's running our Patreon and taking over doing our editing duty I referred to earlier. But so actually Vern flew out from Minneapolis to Rhode Island Comic-Con last month in October. So we got to meet in real life for the first time. And
Or
it was
like 3 months ago or 2 months ago.
It was
nudge, Ryan, you know?
And so I got to meet Vern in real life, and we got to spend a weekend together. And it was like at Comic-Con, and that dude, you would never expect it. He likes to cut a rug.
No, I believe it. I have heard this guy
no.
gets into bar fights.
He gets into bar fights over his dancing.
I don't know
We've
if
heard
you
this
knew
stuff.
this, but
No, I didn't.
Vern gets into full-on barroom brawls.
What?
That's right.
Yes, sir.
They call him
Good-
Vern the Fern
could
because
see
he
that
just
coming.
leaves everybody laying.
Because we went to karaoke, and gotta say, Cougars love Vern. My
I
God,
can
that
see
dude
that.
could just stand there.
Yes,
and he
we
cleans
do.
up without even
We
How
trying.
many,
do.
how many
really
cougars
do.
did he bring home?
I don't know if he did, but he
3,
could
4.
have. If he wanted to, he could have.
Yeah, I bet so. No, I
But yeah.
believe that.
Anyway, but so Let's Chat the podcast, my podcast. So it's a long form conversational chat where I use my behavioral health background to interview people from the worlds of punk rock podcasting and pop culture. So I've worked in mental health for like the last decade, and I'm also a pop culture obsessive person. So I love talking to people who make art I love. I also grew up in like the hardcore punk scene in Connecticut. So it's I equally love Marvel movies, Muppets, and emo and ska. So it's a hodgepodge of stuff. Especially if you're like have nostalgia for like early 2000s emo, we got a lot of those. We're actually for December we're doing a Scala days where we're gonna have 3 ska episodes back to back.
That was in the past. We can go back and check the Scala days.
Did you talk to Llama Tsunami?
No, should I?
Yes, you should.
My favorite
they're,
Muppet.
They're a ska band
Wow.
around here. They do some good stuff. But that's all I got.
Yeah,
That's
send
the
me that
extent
after.
I
Yeah,
can plug them.
if you are listening to this in real time. Oh, so this will be coming out in January. And we should also, if you're listening to this in real time, the next episode that should be coming out or had just come out will be a returning guest, Bob Dearden, and we're going to do a deep dive on Cobra Kai, which he's been writing on for the last couple seasons.
Oh,
Oh, sweet.
Very
Cool.
cool.
Yeah, one of the best parts of sometimes you get lucky and you interview a TV writer when they're writing on a show that no one watches, and then they get hired to something really cool.
Yeah, no, that happens all the time. I mean, you mentioned the Muppets, and we've had Kirk Thatcher on here, who he just directed the recent Muppet Haunted Mansion. So
Say what?
yeah, we had him many months ago in October.
Several months ago.
Yes, I
Several
will
months.
have to go back and
ago.
find that.
And then a year and change ago, he was on episode number 1.
Yeah, he's on the pilot. He's on
Yeah.
Reels of Justice over a roasted fire or whatever.
Did you have someone
He's
from Red
also on
Tracks
our-
on too?
He's on our longest episode ever, the
Oh,
Showgirls episode.
God, he
Oh,
is.
he
He's
is on
the
our Showgirls episode. That's true. The
Oh, God.
Sweet 16 Spectacular.
The one that I couldn't be on because my internet sucked.
That's
Oh,
why we
God. I
don't
don't know
have that
if it
many
was-
people anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just your internet, Ryan. There was a lot of problems with that.
There was.
Oh my God!
But you were there in spirit, Ryan. I think
I was there listening to half of what you guys were saying when I could hear it.
Anyway,
Did you have someone
Chris,
from
what did
Riff
you ask?
Tracks on? I was looking through your
Yeah,
we had Matthew J.
um,
Elliott.
Yep,
I thought so. I
and
was like,
and Mary Jo Peel,
That's right.
damn.
and we've had Trace and Frank too. The Madzabreck / MST3K. We've had a few of the new MST3K cast members as well.
Which one?
Deanna Rooney.
We had Deanna Rooney,
Emily
we had,
Marsh.
Emily
Marsh,
Connor
Tim
McGregor.
Ryder, Tim Ryder,
Ryder.
Tim Ryder.
Grant
I'm excited
Pacheco.
to do a deep dive on your podcast. I'm sure you guys also get invited onto the podcast, and it's always nice. But
Not
no.
enough, and Ben needs to be invited on more podcasts.
Poor
well,
Ben.
the secret to podcast is no one ever invites you. Then you have to ask first. Is the reality.
That's how you got on this show, I think. Vern
Yep,
was
that's
like,
exactly
have
it,
this
yeah.
guy on the show.
Yep,
I
it's
think
because
is exactly how it
because
happened.
I am ADHD as hell, and I would love to have everyone on my podcast, and I unfortunately book 75 people, maybe 2 actually make it on because I dropped the ball and everything. But I'm getting better. I've gotten better since
Make
I
it
added a
79.
producer a couple years ago.
So I get
Now
what you're
have Vern.
putting down, and we would all be grateful to be on your podcast, Chris.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
follow
all
us. I
4 of us
appreciate
at the
it.
same time.
Yes, I'm
At
not
the
kidding.
same
Please
exact
follow
time.
up with me because I got to be honest. I genuinely love you guys. I love your podcast. I thought your format is like so. I've been doing Let's Chat for 2000 since like 2013, and like I'm an obsessive podcast nerd to the umpteenth degree. And I've listened to more independent podcasts I care to for like work and stuff like that. And yours is one that's actually good. And I'm like I will continue
Thank
to
you.
listen. I still can't
Hey,
figure out how
alright,
you
thank
defended
you.
the movie Cats. I knew I was in trouble when I listened to that today. I was like, I'm fucked.
It wasn't successfully, so
The
Leave
fact
that
you even
review
made
on
one was
iTunes,
impressive.
though.
That-
It's actually good.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I would have absolutely nothing to argue positively about that movie. So I was like, my hat is off to you. You are talented. But it's such a cool format. I really love what you're all doing.
thank you. We appreciate
thank
it.
you. That's
And
very kind.
and we are a package deal. So if you come on, you'll have to have either all of us or just Ben.
Yep.
I'm not, and I'm dead serious. Please follow up with me on that because I would love to make that happen. That could be so much fun. Hey, let's bring Vern on. I love doing like
Ooh, yeah.
mashup. I love one of my favorite things is just taking like 2 people that I like. I'm like, let's just all hang out. And yeah,
Have Vern do his Richard Dreyfuss impression for you.
oh god, yeah,
It's excellent.
It is. Actually.
it's so funny because Vern knows so much more about movies than I do, and I'm just like, it's shiny.
Vern does watch a lot of movies. Now, speaking of movies, we always ask for recommendations of a movie that you think our listeners should check out. So what is a movie that you think our listeners should check out?
Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh, hey, very
Oh,
timely.
No.
Fairly. Hey, Ben, this is his recommendation.
Ben.
I'll
So
bite my
I
tongue.
will say this. I have no skin in the game when I went to go see this movie. I like Ghostbusters just fine, but I confuse 1 and 2 frequently. Like they weren't my thing. Like I know I'm saying I liked them, but it wasn't my identity by any means. But one of my very good friends from college, my friend James Holt, shout out James, is a ghost head. So, like, if this movie
that what they
didn't
call
meet
it?
his expectations,
Yes.
I was worried he might hurt himself. And we went to go see it, and I loved it, but I'm like, that doesn't matter. But James loved it, and for that was enough. Like, okay, the fan base loved it. I I mean, by no means is it perfect, but I really had a lot of fun in that movie.
See, I also like Ghostbusters. I'm not a ghost head or a bust nut or whatever they're called.
My mom saw
Jesus.
Ghostbusters 3 times with me in utero.
So that's
So I'm the
what's
biggest
wrong
fan out
with
of all you.
Probably the radiation.
And Dylan, it's
but
your favorite movie, isn't it?
it's Dylan's favorite movie, but Dylan
it is.
Dylan refused to go see Afterlife. He just didn't want to see it. And finally I wore him down. I was like, let's go see it with the kids. You don't want to say that a Ghostbusters movie came to theaters and you didn't see it with your kids. And that was the trick.
Good point.
That's what worked on him. And we went to see it with the kids. The kids loved it.
Kids
I bought
loved
them an obscene amount of popcorn and soda, way more
Yes,
than they
you
could
did.
eat. I stuffed them
Yes,
right
you
through
did.
it. They had a great time. They laughed several times. They were up late. And I didn't think it was bad. I liked the 2016 one as well. There's no secret. I liked
So
the
do I.
2016
It's a
one.
good
I
one.
did not like that
It's a
one.
good movie.
Exactly. A lot of people don't like it. And so
Only because
I
they're
like
women.
them both.
Well, that's
understand
fair
most
Yes,
of the
for them.
exactly, and they
criticism, but I like
don't
it.
like that accusation. But the action in 2016 takes a backseat to the comedy, and if you don't like the comedy, then I can understand not liking that one. But
was just
I
kidding,
like
yeah.
every Ghostbusters movie. I've even famously defended Ghostbusters too.
That's true, you
Fuck
have.
that movie.
Yup,
Fuck that
and
fucking
Ryan
movie.
lost like a big
Fucking
what is
loser
that movie.
face.
people in fandoms
Hate
who
that
like
movie so much.
like my wife is like a Star Wars person, like to the umpteenth degree, and my friend James is like Ghostbusters. Will go on a tirade about Ghostbusters 2 all the time. I'm like, how can you love this franchise and then hate half of it? It's like Star Wars fans, like up until
Yeah.
you hate half of them. Like,
Well, I think some
No.
people don't like the idea that it's a franchise. I think they like that the first one is special in some way, and everything else kind of dilutes that.
yeah, and it's odd to me. I'm like, James, you didn't make these movies. You have no connection to these. Obviously, it's because you love these because they're good movies, and you probably might have more of a connection to it to your father, but you can't see that. But Ivan Reitman needed some dollars. Give the man some money.
That's right. Like, I mean, I like Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. So, I mean,
Yeah,
clearly
they filmed that in
wrong.
Connecticut,
That's
where I'm
fine.
from, and I was like
Well,
around there. It was cool
Yeah.
seeing like I got to see pieces of it being filmed in New Haven. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that was probably.
Well, hey Maynard, you were the counter lawyer today. So what's your
counter lawyer.
what's your recommendation?
Fine,
Counter lawyer.
push me right off into it. Maybe
Yes, sir.
I wanted to talk about that topic, but fine. Well, I'm just killing time while I get to my thing. So, we all know that the flying cow is probably the most iconic element in Twister, even though they kind of took it from Wizard of Oz. But did you also know that the cow was literally taken from another movie? The CGI cow used in Twister was actually originally a CGI zebra in my recommendation this week, 1995's Jumanji.
Hey!
Oh,
Unlike-
hell yeah! Also
unlike
filmed in
Twister-
Keene, New Hampshire. I went to school near there, so I there's like you can go. I've been to a lot of the places where they filmed that movie.
Yeah, I don't know what the town is called in the movie, but unlike Twister, this is easily the best movie to ever be based on a board game. It stars Robin Williams, a young Kirsten Dunst, Bonnie Hunt, who, despite your better impulse, has absolutely no relation to Helen Hunt, and Jonathan Hyde, who plays dual roles most excellently, I might add, as both Williams' father and big game hunter Van Pelt. It has everything you're looking for in an adventure film: action, humor, poignancy, drums, some of the scariest spiders ever put to film. It will make you think twice before ever going on safari, and you can enjoy it with the whole family. It is currently streaming on Netflix. What's with Netflix having movies all of a sudden? I don't know. This has to be a mistake.
Now, I don't want to
Like they're a
correct you, Rob,
business
but
or
it's based
something.
on a book, not a board game.
No, it's based on a board game you play that you roll the dice and animals come out. I've played the game, Ryan. It's a big hit at parties. And Ryan, since you're such a smarty pants and you are a judge, I guess you can go next. I
Thanks.
can't wait to nitpick your thing to death.
Oh, I'd love to hear you try.
Actually, the Blues of Cherbourg.
I'm Ryan. Here's something on TCM that only I know about.
Jeez.
Can I go now?
Yes, please.
Okay, my recommendation this week is on the other side of the special effects spectrum, a triumph of practical magic accomplished by incomparable artisans, 1984's The Muppets Take Manhattan. It's the rare, if not only, Muppet movie to take place in the real world, and if these legends of felt can't put a song in your heart and a tear in your eye, stay the fuck away from me, because we can't be friends. The Muppets Take Manhattan is currently streaming on Pluto, and it's worth the commercials.
It's not on Disney yet?
Nope, because it's a Sony
You
movie.
can't nitpick that, can you, Rob?
I believe that some of the fabrics used to make Muppets were in fact fleece.
You mean foam rubber?
Boo.
I don't know. I totally made it up.
Yeah, that's what.
But no,
I thought.
Muppets Take Manhattan is good.
Good choice.
Better
Now,
than
is
Jason
it like
Takes Manhattan.
I was saying, are they actually in Manhattan or are they on a boat for
They're
most of it?
actually in Manhattan for
They
the
spend
entire
a lot
film.
of time on a
On the
Canadian
streets of
ferry,
Manhattan.
plying their trade.
Oh, God.
Big Ben, what have you got for us?
I'm going to go with another environment kind of disaster film and go with 2016's Tunnel, which comes to us by way of South Korea. And if you're not checking out South Korean films, you really should, because they have a lot of great things that they're pumping out over there. Tunnel focuses on a man who's driving through the titular underpass when an earthquake causes the whole thing to come down on him, leaving him trapped beneath tons of debris for days. And an effort is made on the outside to rescue him, and it goes into all the survival techniques they need to employ to keep him alive for days on end with only the few items he had in the car with him. I had a fun time with it. It's currently on Hoopla and Hiya! Though I'm not sure why you'd have either one of those. But it's rentable and purchasable. Hoopla! But it's rentable
Now-
and purchasable for pretty much all of them.
Bong Joon-ho, that's Korea, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I gotta get more caught up on Korean films, as you suggested.
Absolutely.
Stay
do it
away
together.
from the
We'll
northern
marathon.
ones, though.
Hey, that kaiju one they had was interesting.
Oh,
Bobby Lapierre sent me that one for Christmas.
Pulgasari?
Yeah, that was
the
it. It was
one-
good.
The one where the director was forced to make it at gunpoint. Yeah. Oh, that is a
It's
good
like
one.
the story isn't more interesting than the movie, but still,
Hey.
it's a fun experience.
But then that director was able to escape to America, where he made 3 Ninjas. I mean, come on.
That's true. But not Three Ninjas Kicked Back.
Actually, it might have been 3 Ninjas.
Yeah, he
I
might
don't
have.
know.
He might have been one of them. All right, Dylan, send us on home here.
All right, actually, my recommendation is pretty close to Ben's. I'm recommending 1995's Apollo 13. Because, you see, I always mix up Kevin Bacon and Bill Paxton when I think about Twister, so I decided to split the difference and just recommend a movie featuring both of them. So, Ron Howard directed this feature about the true story of the failed Apollo 13 moon landing mission. Our brave astronauts are lost in space while the heroes at home scramble to get them back. And like in Ben's recommendation, they have to use everything at their disposal in the space capsule to get home. The stakes couldn't be higher, and you feel the tension with every minute. It is an A+ effort from top to bottom.
So instead of being buried in a tunnel, they're stuck up in space.
Yes,
And
but
I think
the
it's on
idea
Peacock right now. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
it might be as of this recording is also on AMC Plus.
For all
Uh,
5
yeah,
people who
that's
have
sure.
that.
Yeah. I didn't even know they had a plus.
Probably the guy who's
I-
high too. He just has all of them.
I don't know. I've got the IMDb page open. I'm looking right at it.
Well, I believe you. Well, very great. With that, we're all out of show, but we want to thank our guest, Chris, for joining us. Thank you, Chris, and we hope to have you back, very soon.
Thank you very much. This was a lot of fun. Next time I'm bringing my A game, I'm going to do even more prep.
We'll do Ghostbusters Afterlife. Bring it.
Don't fall for his trap.
Again.
Don't fall for his trap.
I know Ryan's in my back pocket over here. I just got to convince Dylan or Rob.
Get him out of there. And we hope everyone else will join us as well for obviously that exciting case that'll be coming up one day as the reels of justice keep turning.
Count it.
Dorothy.
It blew.
The Saxo.
Please follow us on Twitter at Reels of Justice, Instagram Reels of Justice, and Facebook.com/Reels of Justice.